A few weeks ago, I was invited to speak on a panel about the topic navigating adversity. Now, this is a topic I absolutely love. I have overcome drug addiction to then join the Marines, spent 6 years in the Marines, one tour in Iraq in a war zone as an infantry non-commissioned officer. Came back from the war, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, struggled with that, and depression and alcoholism that pushed me to the brink of suicide. Thankfully, I got out of that dark world. I've been blessed since then. I've climbed mountains in the Himalayas. I've skied 350 miles across the world's second largest ice cap. I've written a book called Fearvana that I was truly blessed to receive a foreword for from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Built a business and had all these tremendous experiences since then that have collectively taught me adversity is a beautiful thing. There is a tremendous gift that lies within adversity. So during this panel discussion, my answer to that question of how do we navigate adversity was to develop a positive relationship to it, to fall in love with adversity. Now, most people in the audience had never really heard this before because when we hear things like adversity or stress or suffering, we think of them as negative things. That's what most people thought. They'd never thought that adversity can be a gift. Adversity, in fact, is necessary in order to evolve into that next greatest version of ourselves. So after the panel, a lot of people came up to me. They really resonated with the idea. They wanted to dig a little deeper. And one of the people that came up to me was this college kid. He had actually just graduated college, and now he was embarking upon his path. So he was a young kid. He was now following his passion. And he had been told, if you follow your passion, life will be grand. It'll be joy. It'll be happy. It'll be filled with sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. Now, you might gather from my tone that I'm obviously being sarcastic because it won't be all those things. And this kid was starting to discover that. He was starting to discover that even if you follow your passion, it will be hard. That's why he liked the idea of falling in love with that struggle because it was inevitable anyway. So as I kept talking to this kid, one thing came up which I thought was really fascinating. He said to me he was struggling with the idea of balancing inner peace, happiness, joy, contentment, with the fear, the challenge, the struggle, the adversity. And he asked me, can they coexist? How do they coexist? And of course, my answer was, of course they can coexist. And it's in fact when you make those things one, the peace and the struggle, you unite them as one, that's when you will attain that next awakening. That's how you will evolve into the next greatest version of yourself. So he was struggling with this idea. He was struggling with balancing these two things and understanding this concept. But I wanted to share this with you as a part of this new series I am launching called Why We Get Mental Health Wrong and What to Do About It. I was inspired to create this because of this conversation I had with this kid, because of our negative relationship to adversity, because of my own life experience, and especially because of some experiences I've recently had with people very close to me. Some family, some veteran buddies I have really been struggling. And I see that the way we approach mental health is tremendously flawed. Tremendously flawed. And I think most people who share their take on mental well-being are not intentionally doing it. It's just that they're playing from a bad playbook. I think they have love in their hearts. They want to help people. But in my opinion, which is an educated opinion, and I'm not saying this to brag, I really want to stress this point because I want you to know that what I'm saying is not coming from nowhere. I've experienced it in life. I've researched the hell out of it. That's what led to my book, Fearvana. I've seen it in other people I worked with as a coach, as a speaker. And through all of these experiences, I've come to realize how I believe we need to approach mental health and our mental well-being. And most of what is out there, most of the collective wisdom that is out there on mental well-being is absolutely flawed and as a result, highly destructive. So to start the series off, I'm going to talk about what mental well-being is from the big picture, and it relates to this conversation I had with this kid. To tell you what this is, and to really introduce this topic, I want to share a quote from someone who is a far wiser man than myself, Viktor Frankl. If you're not familiar, he was a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. He survived 4 concentration camps, I believe. He was in Auschwitz and some other ones as well. I mean, obviously awful things this man went through. He wrote this tremendous, life-changing book called Man's Search for Meaning, which I highly recommend you check out if you've never read it or if you've never heard of it, if you've never heard about it. So this is what he said about mental health. Thus, it can be seen that mental health is based on a certain degree of tension. The tension between what one has already achieved and what one still ought to accomplish, or the gap between what one is and what one should become. Such a tension is inherent in the human being and therefore is indispensable to mental well-being. I consider it a dangerous misconception of mental hygiene to assume that what man needs in the first place is equilibrium, or as it is called in biology, homeostasis, a tensionless state. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. I define the concept of Fearvana as the bliss that results from engaging our fears to pursue our own worthy struggle, which is what, as Viktor Frankl said, that freely chosen task, that struggle we are striving for. And this is the fundamental flaw I've realized in mental well-being that the same kid had learned to expect. That mental well-being, mental health was inner peace, finding that state of calm. But it's not. The expectation of that inner peace, that expectation of calm causes more problems because you're seeking something that won't be there. It will not be there. Professor Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote this fantastic book called Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience. And he says, contrary to what we tend to assume, the normal state of the mind is chaos. Chaos is the normal state of the mind. It's natural to experience that. Mental well-being is not the absence of tension. It's not the absence of conflict. It's being at peace with that tension, being at peace with that conflict. I'm going to share one more quote from a far wiser man than myself, the Dalai Lama. He says, "Peace does not mean an absence of conflicts. Differences will always be there. Peace means solving these differences through peaceful means, through dialogue, education, knowledge, and through humane ways." Now, of course, in the context of that quote, he was referring to external conflicts, to war. But I firmly believe that quote applies to the internal state of the mind as well. That inner peace, that mental well-being is not the absence of the conflict, absence of that inner tension. By seeking that, we are causing ourselves more problems. That was this kid's problem. He thought that's where he needed to be. In a state of calm, in a state of joy, in a state of peace. Happiness, my friend, is not the elimination of sadness, despite what other people might tell you. Happiness is finding the gift in it. That's what mental well-being is being able to experience life with all its struggles, with all its challenges, with all its adversity, with all that chaos, with all that tension, and being able to experience all of that and finding bliss within those experiences. This is the fundamental flaw on how we approach mental well-being and mental health. We're all looking for that tensionless state. We're all looking to eliminate this adversity, to find that peace, that calm within. It just won't happen. Accept it and be at peace with it. That will lead you to far greater degrees of mental health than most of what else you're doing. This is just the big picture. This is the introduction to this series I'm now creating on why we get mental health wrong and what to do about it. In almost all the videos I share with you, I'm going to give you action steps so you can apply this material in a practical way to transform your life. But today, it's just this. There is no action step. This is the mindset shift I want to help create within you. I just want you to ponder what I'm saying. Reflect on it. Journal about it. Just be with this. Learn to accept that your mental health is not the elimination of that tension, of that conflict, of that inner chaos, all of it. It's the acceptance of it. What does that feel like to you? Write it down. Explore this within yourself. See where it takes you. And as we move on in this series, I'm going to give you more tangible, practical action steps so you can apply all of this in your life. It saddens me, it breaks my heart when I see so many people in our human family suffering. I see people intensely close to me suffering, which is why I finally wanted to create this series and help us navigate this together. I've been blessed to have come out of some pretty dark places within my life, and I want to share everything I've learned with you. So if you want to join me in this series, feel free to subscribe to the Fearvana channel, check out the blog where I'm going to be going deeper as well, fearvana.com, and shoot questions my way. You can post comments in YouTube, on my blog. Shoot me an email at akshay@fearvana.com. There's my email. I want more people to come together to address this. We see so many awful things happening to people. Anthony Bourdain just took his own life. Tragic, such a beautiful soul. So many of us are suffering. Let's come together to address this. That's why I needed to, from the core of my being, needed to address that most of how we are approaching mental health is wrong. Unfortunately, it's just wrong, and it's causing more damage than it is good. So share all your questions with me, and I'm here to get your back. Any question I get, 100% questions I get, will be answered in this series. So share your questions with me. Whatever you are struggling with, know that I am here for you. We can do this thing together. As one, we are stronger. So I'll see you again in the next video in this series of why we get mental health wrong, what to do about it. So ultimately, you can create a more peaceful and blissful life. Remember, that doesn't mean you're going to be happy all the time and it's going to be all peaceful and joy and sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. It just means you learn to be at peace with the struggle and learn to find the gift in it. So I look forward to hearing your questions. Know that I am with you. Whatever you are struggling with, you're not alone, my friend. It's part of the human experiences. Sending you lots and lots of love from here in India. And I'll see you again very soon. Take care.